a theme here is definitely about change and trying to navigate and manage change. And we need to make smart choices. Yesterday I was speaking down in New York at a meeting of the Energy Bar Association, where the opening speaker was somebody that Cindy knows better than I do, Cheryl LaFleur, who was an executive and at one time ran what is now National Grid US, the old New England electric system. And Cheryl is now on as a commissioner of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And she has suggested that part of the problem that we have in this country is when it comes to energy generation is we are serially monogamous. That at one time, all of a sudden, everything that was built was coal. And then there's another period when everything that was built was nuclear. And then everything that's built is gas. That's the kind of sort of rushing change that can be, that can come back around to bite you in terms of, and then she makes the observation that we don't have generation diversity, we have generational diversity. That the reason why we have different kinds of power plants is because they are of different vintages when different things were in fashion. So that's part of this context. And understanding that we have a legacy fleet of generating plants, we have a pool of resources. But what is the context that all these things play out against the backdrop? Well, global warming. It's a fundamental threat. And one thing I can say is, regardless of what your views are on these things, Massachusetts as a state in legislation and through administrative steps recognizes that threat and is taking action. And, and that's what we should be doing. It's a little terrifying, frankly, that our national government is in the deepest denial, frankly, of any national government in the world. I mean, Canada is going through this ambivalence on the subject, but understands things a bit more than we do. Australia, for a long time, was sort of following the United States down the path of head in the sand, has changed around and is now really starting to address things. Is everybody doing everything they should? No. But there is action taking place, and Massachusetts and New England is one of the places where action is starting to really take place. Now, nuclear. Not to suggest that in-depth and really fascinating presentation was moot, but our aging nuclear power plant is going away. It's simply a matter of time. Is Vermont Yankee going to be gone in 2 years? Or in 22 years. That's basically the debate that's going on. In the longer run, those plants are going away. Now, and the questions that will make the decision on how quickly they go away will appropriately be ones of safety and to some degree of cost. And that is basically what is going on. Now, in terms of new nuclear, now that truly is a moot question here. The largest nuclear operator in the United States, the Exelon company, has announced that they believe that it is, from an purely economic point of view, that they are not going to build any new nuclear power plants for the foreseeable future. Conditions may change, but right now they simply are not. The economic climate, it is just so expensive. It is just simply not an option on the table. So whether it is a good climate solution or not, frankly, is kind of irrelevant, because it's just not a tool that's available to us if we are going to be rational from an economic perspective. So moving on from nuclear. And then natural gas is and will be for some time the dominant price-setting fuel. How good from a climate perspective natural gas is a really interesting question. There's a great deal of controversy in the scientific community about what is the net life cycle emissions of natural gas. There's a study of Professor Howarth at Cornell raised a whole lot of controversy over the last year with a study that showed that natural gas derived from the fracking process you hear so much about, but the unconventional natural gas actually from a net greenhouse gas perspective is worse than coal. And there is a very robust debate in the scientific community whether it is simply half as bad as coal or as bad as coal or worse than coal. But over the long run, natural gas is at best a transitional fuel from a climate and environmental perspective. What else is changing? Well, as Carolyn O'Connor alluded to, a number of folks have alluded to, we have a fundamental change in terms of demand response, in terms of energy efficiency, and I would highlight in terms of, I was going to ask everyone in the room who has a campus, raise your hand. If you got a campus, or even just your own building, taking a look at distributed generation in terms of combined heat and power, where the same energy that's used to heat and cool is also used to make electricity, there are unprecedented opportunities, and I'll come around to this in a little bit with a nice visual. There are unprecedented opportunities for the end-use customer to be the master of their own fate, to produce products like the folks with the solar panels on the roofs, to be able to sell those certificates, to not just be a consumer, but to actually be a producer, and to meet your own needs, and maybe do a little bit of export depending on how things go. And these new products are appearing. Frequency regulation. There's some allusion in the first panel to the Eastern Interconnection, which the engineering textbooks will tell you is the largest machine in the world. That we maintain on this continent this synchronized machine that keeps the power frequency theoretically the same when it's working right from the Rockies to Newfoundland and Florida. And keeping that all in synchronization is tricky. And ISO New England has actually been leading the way in recognizing that some resources are better at helping to maintain the power frequency than others. Historically, the way that the power frequency is maintained was by turning giant generators up and down just a little bit. It's sort of like trying to, hammer nails with an anvil, basically. And what is now possible is using much more distributed, smaller resources. We're able to fine-tune. And ISO New England from their center in Holyoke will send out an electronic signal telling those resources to tune things up and down to maintain the frequency. This is a real opportunity for people who are fundamentally customers to have cited these resources. So new markets, and Cindy will show you how to make money on it. And the wind, what does wind offer us? Well, for one thing, price stability. Could discuss this in terms of being dependent on fossil fuels puts you on a price roller coaster. It goes up, it goes down. The price of fossil fuels go up, they go down. The price changes. When you have a generating resource where the fuel is free, you have price stability. Now, it might be more than you want to pay right now, but you have price certainty. And if you're doing forward budgeting, price certainty is a pretty good thing to have. So, what's the risk, what's the premium you're willing to pay for that certainty? It's like an insurance policy.